Do you see any werewolves? I don't see any werewolves. Do you see any werewolves? I don't see any werewolves. I dare you to take a step forward. We were playing the werewolf game. Now, it's not that I meant to scare my best friend to death. It's just we got taken over by a kind of greater power. The summer I was 10, that power was dark shadows. Soap opera. Back then, now it's been remade as a movie, but we knew it as a soap opera. The Collins family, they lived in Maine, they were very rich, and they did all the things that soap opera families do. They fought, they fell in love, sometimes they, kissed. Ugh. But the reason we all raced home in time to plonk down in front of the TV with snack at 4:30 every afternoon when dark shadows came on is because the Collins family, in addition to being very rich and living in Maine, they were werewolves and vampires and witches. And that was entertainment. I was totally in love with Quentin Collins, who was the dashing young heir to the Collins estate. He had beautiful curly brown hair and big brown eyes and these glorious 1970s mutton chop sideburns. They were just works of art. And they came in handy because members of the Collins family were always time traveling back and forth between 1970 and the 1800s. So Quentin's facial hair worked in both eras. It was very convenient, as did his plaid leisure suit that he usually sported. So totally in love with Quentin. The only problem with Quentin was that he did happen to be a werewolf. So if you were on a date with him and the moon was full, he would tear you into little bits. But he had a good heart, and he tried to protect people from his animal instincts. So every month when the moon turned full, he would have a friend take him into the Collins family cemetery, into the mausoleum, the little stone building where the coffins rest above ground. And Quentin would step up into the mausoleum. His friend would clang, slam the iron gate closed, lock him in. And then you would see Quentin's hands coming out around the iron bars. The camera would shoot up to the moon, full in the sky. Ow! Cut back to Quentin's hands, and they would be sprouting fur and claws as he turned into a wolf. Ah! They always did this on Friday, always. So then they'd cut to the closing credits, and we were left the whole weekend. What's going to happen? So of course we couldn't leave it there. Hence, the werewolf game. This was our way of carrying the story forward. And very conveniently, the little town where I grew up, Marietta, Pennsylvania, I grew up in a house right across the street from the town cemetery, full of leaning old tombstones. It was surrounded by this black iron gate, fence with a gate that went when you opened it, and there was a mausoleum right in the middle of the cemetery, just like the Collins family had. So we would play the werewolf game. Rules were very simple. You went into the cemetery, and then you dared each other to go up to the mausoleum. And whoever was brave enough to actually get close enough that you could look in the window and see if there was a werewolf inside, won. That person would then scream, "I am the werewolf," and chase all the rest of us. If you made it back to my side yard and grabbed the bushes, you were safe before the werewolf got you. But at night, of course, we were much too scared to go into the cemetery. So then we had a nighttime version of the game. And that's what we were playing the night we got taken over by the greater power and everything went terribly wrong. It was me, my best friend Paula, and Paula's older sister, Catherine. Catherine was a year older. So when she decided to play with us, we were always trying to impress her with how cool we were, which is why we were playing the werewolf game, even though we were usually too scared to play it even at night. So there we were, lined up, me, Paula, Catherine. We were in my side yard, our backs to the bushes, looking at the cemetery. Catherine started, "Do you see any werewolves?" "I don't see any werewolves." "Do you see any werewolves?" "I don't see any werewolves." "I dare you to take a step forward." We all took one big step forward toward the cemetery. Then it was Paula's turn. "Do you see any werewolves?" "I don't see any." "Do you?" Another big step. Now, Catherine and I did not plan what happened next. We were not vicious children. We just got swept away. I said, Do you see anywhere? I dare you to take a step forward. And as Paula was taking the requisite step forward, I caught Catherine's eye behind Paula's back. And while Paula took a huge step forward, Catherine and I took a huge step back. Then Catherine did the question, and once again Paula took a giant step forward, and Catherine and I took a giant step back. And the third time, Paula took a step so big that she almost ended up in the cemetery. I mean, she was right on the edge, looking for the werewolf. Catherine and I took a huge step back and ducked down behind the bushes so we were completely out of sight. And then someone, I don't know who, it was probably Catherine, went, "Ow!" Paula leapt up in the air, came back down, looked. Her sister and her best friend were gone, they'd vanished, and there was a werewolf right behind her. "Ah!" She started to scream, she started to run. "Ah!" By the bushes. "Ah!" Crunch, crunch, crunch across the gravel driveway. "Ah!" Crunch, crunch, crunch around the side yard. "Ah!" To our side door. Boom, boom, boom. "Ah! What?" Catherine and I were in hysterics. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Did you hear? Ah! She jumped out of the sofa. Ah! Which, we might as well enjoy ourselves as long as we could, because sooner or later we had to pull ourselves together, go in the house, and find that Paula had taken refuge in a power even greater than a werewolf, my mom. Paula was sitting on the counter. Mom was making her hot chocolate. Paula had a big wad of tissues in her hand, and she was really looking pretty happy when we came in the door. And the minute she saw us, I was so scared. Mom went over, "Oh, honey, it's all right. You're safe now." And she hugged Paula. Paula stuck her tongue out at Catherine and me over my mom's shoulder. Catherine and I did not get hot chocolate. We got a big lecture. And we had no excuse. We had nothing to say for ourselves. The only thing I could say is, "Well, dark shadows made us do it," which cut no ice with my mother. So for our punishment, for the whole rest of the evening, we had to play whatever game Paula wanted. And even worse than that, we had to play the game according to Paula's rules. It was torture. But ever since then, I have remembered that there is no greater power in this life or any life hereafter, no power greater than the power of Mom.